All right, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another episode in our long-running series called the Fliplogic Real Estate Show. I'm going to be your host, Ryan Kirk, and I'll also have my co-host with us, James. And let me see if James is on the line. James, can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. All right. Awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. We do this every Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes, last week we didn't have one. We had some technical difficulties that were actually way beyond us. Our email provider, people you may have heard of them, Mandrill or MailChimp. They're pretty huge. Their whole server went down last week for a few days. It was a pretty big deal. So anyways, that knocked us offline as well. But anyways, we're back. Excited to be here. So the format's Q&A. We run an hour, and so there is in the panel. There's a question box, and I can already see some questions have already come in. So get your questions in there, and we'll answer them in the order that they're received, and we'll run an hour or until all questions are exhausted. And we'll also be doing a little deal analysis within Fliplogic as well. So, and we'll do it via a screen share because that helps you guys be able to see things in real time and how they work. So I'm going to go ahead. Usually I open up and start with something so you guys have time to kind of get questions in there. But since we already have a few in, I'm going to go ahead and take a few of those. So Michael asks, my question is how to add my own comp to the comp list. So that's a great question. So why don't I go ahead and share my screen and help Michael with that first question. So that's a great question. And let's see, Michael, I know Michael's has a lead. So let's look at Michael's lead. Michael, what's the name of your property? Do you have a property
You can
address?
go to the dashboard and hit the activity for today.
Okay, let's do that then. So Michael's got a property that he's working on, and his question is, how do you add a comp manually? So I'm going to go to the comps tab, and you guys can all see my screen okay? If you guys would just, maybe just give me a little acknowledgement, tell me yes or no. I want to make sure you guys can see my audio or get my audio, hear me, and then you can also see the screen share. So if you can't, let me know. So I'm here in the comps. So obviously when you fetch comps like Michael already has with this, with the comp fetcher, this tab here, the screen comp fetcher, it populated comps for him already, but it sounds like, and I'm going to check his, okay, so we're looking at the comp he would like to add. That's perfect. So he would like to add, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen. Let's see if I can. I don't know if you guys can see. Let's see here. I'm trying to pull up his comp. Okay, there we go. So the address he gave me, let's see, I'm going to change my screen share because, wait, yes, can you guys see? You guys can see my, okay, yeah, you can see my screen. So let me close this there. All right, so back to Michael's comp here. So this is the comp, a comp Michael found at 216 South High and then Lucy Avenue. So I'm just going to copy that address. And as you can see, Michael probably was looking in Redfin or looking in Zillow, and he had found this comp on his own, and it wasn't in here. So what you can do, I'm going to close this and close this. So what you can do is add property is a button here at the end of the comp list. So these obviously populated automatically. Red means they're not the most comparable. Green means they are the most comparable by, you know, bed, bath, square footage, lot size, year built. So it's got to fall pretty close. And here's our subject property, a 3-2, 1,800 square feet, 6,500 square foot lot. Okay, so back to the point to answer Michael's question. So I hit add property. I copied the address from wherever it was, or you could just type it in, but I'm going to just paste it and I'm going to give it a minute. And here it's populated the geolocation. So I'm just going to click that, and then it's going to populate the data of that lead. So now we can see a thumbnail, a street view thumbnail, how far it is from our subject, bed, bath, square footage, lot size, year built, price that it last sold at, and the date that it last sold at. And then it breaks it down to price per square foot that it sold at, and then it breaks it down to the percentage of how that relates to our subject property, or to the average. So based on all of the selected properties, this is the average of what's been selected. So $238 a square foot is the average. And 284 is, I believe that's 20, that represents 20% above the average. So now if Michael wanted to select it, he would check the box there. So now that's included with anything he selected. If he wanted to see what he selected, he could click on the column here. And now this is pulled up. He's got 4 comps selected here. And then it tells you what the averages are. So based out of all of his comps he's selected, the average price is, average sales price is $356,000 and $249 a foot. So this is his ARV based on those selected comps. So, but you can't just rely on that. That's a suggested. So what is it suggesting? It's suggesting 449,000. And I'm just going to help do a little more deal analysis here since I'm looking at it. But if you guys are having any questions while we're doing this, please get them in the chat box, and we'll or the Q&A box, the Q&A panel, and we'll get to them when we have time here. So based on that, the only thing that what I'm really noticing here is our subject property is 1,800 square feet, and all of these are much smaller. So that can be a little difficult. You don't want to just use a pure price per square foot, because $249 is the average of these smaller comps. If you take 249 times your larger square footage, now you've got 450. But will that really be supported there in that neighborhood? You know, you really want to be within about 200 square feet as far as living square footage size goes, smaller or larger than your subject property. So you wouldn't want your comps to be any larger than 2,000 square feet, and you really wouldn't want them to be any smaller than 1,600 square feet, or else now your price per square foot is going to start going out of whack. And then if you're using a price per square foot on your larger square footage here, you can see why now your ARV is mushroomed to 450,000. And realistically, that may not make sense in that neighborhood. But if we actually pull up the price sold column and we look at all the most expensive properties that have come up in this neighborhood, I mean, this one's close as far as distance, but it's so much larger. So you wouldn't even want to look at that, but that was 600,000. This is 3,200 square feet that sold for 570. This one's 1990 square feet, sold for 540, but it is, the lot is about 3 times, was that 3? That's 2, like 2.5 times the size. So that's a pretty big lot. This is closer. It's a 4.25. It's on the same street, almost the same street. That's not a perfect comp, but you know, that's something, you know, that's something else you could look at. Kind of helps. I mean, that doesn't really help our case. I wouldn't include it. It's almost 400,000. This might be a fixer, actually, given the size and the sales price. But yeah, this is a good comp that Michael found. It's 500 square feet smaller, which helps us because it sold for 390, and it's also a mile away. But I think it is a rehab from what he looked at here. And you also want to make sure it's a similar style. I mean, this is a very charming. It's not quite like a Craftsman, but I'm not sure what you would call that. English, Americanized English. Shaker shingle over tongue and groove. So, and the other thing when you're looking at comps is, and that's why it's good to have a map here. But if our subject property is here, you want to make sure that even though that's within a mile, you're not crossing over like any major boundaries where the neighborhood totally changes. So it looks like that's pretty much the same neighborhood. Almost the same street even. So, and I think your subject property, if you just click on it here, you can get a street view as well. And you just want to make sure the neighborhood and the style is going to match up with that comp that you're looking at, since it is a mile and you're starting to get further out. But I could see how 450 is justified, but it would be nice to have, like, this is a good comp here, but even though it's a 4.2, so yeah, and you've got, this looks like a nice street as well. So your subject property there. I would include this 540 comp, because even though it's got an extra bed, you're pretty close to the square footage. You're within 200 square feet. Your lot size is a lot larger. I don't know how much the land values are over there, but even if that's 540, so if you basically take off 100 grand for the triple lot size, or 2.5 times lot size, that would put you at 440. So I think that's something that's, you've got some support there with that. And this also recently sold. This was what? This comp's 3 months old. So 90 days. So that's also, maybe it's 4 months, 120 days. So that's still a good comp. Within a year is good. Within 6 months is better. Within 90 days is best. So, or 30 days is best, but 90 days is still good. So that's a good comp. So now with those comps selected, and if you wanted to see what that looked like again, you could pull those 4 up to the top or 5 by clicking on that top row. And now there you go. So now I'm going to do this one last portion here. We can move over to the Analyze tab. You could generate a CMA now if you wanted to. It's asking you if you want to do that. So I'll click yes, it's generating a CMA, and then it'll put it right there. Would you like to automatically add it to your document folders? And I could just say yes. So then it'll be right here in your documents. And all it did was, sounds like it just updated the one that was currently in there. So if we have a 440 ARV and if your price per square foot for repairs, if you're middle of the road, which is what Michael did for $25 a square foot, now that gives you a $45,000 repair cost or repair budget. And our algorithms are in place here, so it just defaults to 4 months. You could always change that. It really is going to depend on the market, and you could look at this comp here. You could look at the price history and see that it listed in July, went pending, wow, in 2 days, and sold. So, I mean, that was less than 30 days on market. So if a rehabber was, but the other comp I'd like to look at, but based off that, if a rehabber was going to rehab for 30 days and then list and sell and close in 30 days, so that's a 2-month hold time here in this market, in that neighborhood there. I'm going to look at the comps again real quickly because I want to pull up that recent one that I added or selected, which was, I'll just again pull the selected ones up to the top, and I'll check on this 540. I'll see if this was a flip. It looks like, I mean, from that shot, this looks a little dated, but let's see. All right, white appliances, I mean, wood floors. I mean, it's a huge lot. I mean, it's nothing fancy, but it's not completely dated, but it's not completely upgraded. It's kind of middle of the road. So you can tell it's not like a rehabber picked it up and flipped it. It was, if that was the case, you would have saw that it was purchased, probably, within 12 months before this next resale. So it was listed at 540 or 550, went pending in 10 days, and then closed. So yeah, this is definitely a healthy, quick moving market. So I'm going to go back to the Analyze tab. I was just looking to see if those were flips or not, and I'll leave this at 2 months. And it automatically puts in, it defaults to an 80% first mortgage, 80% of as a percentage of the purchase and repair costs. So, and a lot of lenders will lend 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab. So, but every rehabber is a little different. Some will buy all cash. Some will put 20% down. Some will put 10% down. So it defaults at 80, but you're free to change that. Same with the interest rate. those same types of lenders will do like 8.5% interest rates, you know, up to, I mean, they'll go as high as, who knows, 15%. So it just kind of gives a line item there. So based off that, the suggested max rehab price would be 326, which would mean a net rehab profit for the rehabber at of 40,000 and a 10% ROI, 60% annualized. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. So it would suggest a max offer of 315 and an initial offer of 287. So now if we look at, because the one thing you want to take into consideration also, which is what we're going to look at now, is this subject property is listed. It's listed at 290. And it's been listed for, let's take a look. It's been listed for 33 days. And they did they listed it at 300, and then they did a price reduction almost 2 weeks ago to 289. So what does that tell you? It tells you that you need to get it. The market's already spoken. The market doesn't want to pay 289. So here we are looking at our max rehab price at 326 or almost 327. So, well, then why wouldn't a rehabber have, if this says 327 and it's listed for 290, then that's a deal, right? Let's just offer the listing price 290, and let's market it to rehabbers at 327, right? Well, the reason why you can't do that is because, you know, nobody's gonna pay more than what it's already listed for with that listing history, right? It's been sitting around for 30 days. It's stale. It's already gone through a price reduction. That could be for, now, why is that? And how much should we offer? And what could we sell it for? Could be for a couple of reasons. There could be a mistake in maybe the listing details, or in Illinois, it's famous, you know, they've got basements there. People don't really, they don't value the below grade square footage of basements. You can't value that the same as above grade. So that could be another reason. I think Michael, I think he had made notes about that earlier, that he'd already discussed that with the agent. I'm actually going to move the video here. And that based on that, I think, Michael, maybe you could add to the question here, but is the 1,800 square feet, is that all above grade? Let's see. Michael says, you can tell people about the fact that it's not 1,800 square feet. Aha, see, there we go. So it's actually 1,300 square feet above ground. 500 is below ground. Okay. So that is, he says, sorry, I meant 1,200 square feet. So it's 2/3 the size of what it appears to be. Comp should be 1,000 to 1,400 square feet. There you go. And Michael actually says it's only 1,161 square feet. Okay. So there you have it. So there we go. So there's the anomaly. And you just have to be aware of that in your market. Like California, I'm in Southern California. Southern California, we don't have basements. At least most houses I've ever seen usually don't. Some do. It's very rare. And if they are, it's usually where, you know, they don't have it towards living square footage. So what Michael needs to do on this, and we'll just do it now, is we'll go back to the comps, and we got to throw, we've got to use comps that are within 200 square feet of our living square footage. So I think that's why he had us add that comp from the get. So yeah, so that was good. And I think, so I'm going to get rid of this one at 540. Obviously it's way larger. That's not going to work. So these are all great comps now. And I can see why he used this 390 here, and this one on Russell 392. That's another great comp. So that's about where we're at then. If we use those, and you know, this 330, I wonder if this was 330 and this 315 sale. It would be interesting to see if those were rehabs or not. But I want to look at 702 Russell and see if this was a flip as well. And the reason why it's good to dig into your comps, like what we're going to do right now on Russell, is to see if this was a rehab or not, or to see what kind of condition it's in. Obviously, it's the highest sales price in the comps, so it leads us to believe that it's probably been remodeled or it's in its highest and best condition. And yeah, if we look at it now, we've got the dark, like espresso colored cabinets, you know, the quartz white countertops, the wood floors, the stainless steel appliances, the tiled, you know, bathroom. And so now let's look at the price history. So we already know it's in its highest and best condition. It's been remodeled. And now if we look at the sales history, it looks like most likely it was a flip. It was purchased for $225 in June of 2017. They listed it a little, about 4 months later, five, 6 months later at $400. Went pending in 9 days, fell out, went back on market, went pending again a month later, and then sold for $392. So this was a flip. So this is pretty good. This tells you, and this comp, or sorry, the sale. I mean, this comp is almost a year old, and then their acquisition price was in 2017. So that was pretty long ago, but they bought that for $225. And that just gives you a hint as to what that rehabber was willing to pay. He was willing to pay $225 to get a 400,000 ARV or a 392 ARV. So that gives you some insight there. And then this other comp, I believe, wasn't a flip when we looked at it. And sorry, my internet is going slow. I clicked. Oh yeah, we're going to get rid of Forest because that didn't work. And I'm going to get rid of these other two lower sales. I'm guessing if we dug into these are probably not remodeled, would be my guess. So we're going to use the two ARV comps, the two remodeled comps, and we will base our ARV based on that. And I'm actually going to change our property details.
Ryan,
I'm going to, yeah.
I'm going to interject here. The comp that Russell suggested, I'm sorry, not Russell, that's one of the property addresses. Sorry, Michael. It crosses the freeway. I just noticed it when you scrolled up. So you might want to
take a look.
That.
This one down here, 390.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It crosses that 14.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That one would not be a good one, but you can if you pull up the chat box, I sent you one.
Okay. I think it was this Russell one, right? The one that you sent.
Yeah.
James.
507.
What's the 507?
Yeah.
And that is, 507. We've got 702.
Yeah, it didn't come up.
I
Put
thought,
7 North Russell Street. And then the rest of the
all right, 5. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add that one. So what'd you say? It's 507
North Russell
North
Street,
Russell Street.
Mount
So
Prospect.
here it is. So it popped up. I'm just going to click on it. It's going to populate. Now that that's populated, wow, that's a good comp. I'll select it. So now that's a part of our comps. And let's dig. Let's dig into this one. So Michael, what we'll do is we will, even though this is within a mile, that's what I was talking about, and I actually confused it for this other green one right here at 392. I thought that was the comp that you had brought up, but you can see on the map when you put in the address and it populated, this is that comp down here. But rehabbers are going to say, or appraisers, rehabbers, everybody's going to say, yeah, it's within a mile, but this could be a totally different neighborhood down here. It could very well be the same, but you cross a major boundary, which is this freeway. So you could include it, but you're not going to want to give it as much weight as you would with comps that are directly in this neighborhood. So since that, and actually this comp that James found was really good. But rehabbers are definitely going to, everybody, again, rehabbers, appraisers, they're going to give this one at 702 Russell a lot of weight because it's nearby. And they're also going to give this one at 507 Russell because, again, it's nearby. But this one actually helps us out quite a bit. It's a 3-1. It's only 1,000 square feet, 1,060. It's only 3-1. It's sold in 2019. So it's more recent, and it sold for 550. And it's older. It's 1956. So let's click on it. Let's pull it up, and let's dig into it just to see what kind of condition it's in. I'm sure it's a rehab. And then let's also look at the price history. And you're going to really like this one I'm about to share with you guys. So there's no photos here on Zillow. So what you could do maybe to see if there are photos, you could copy paste into Google and then look at Redfin, see if there's any photos of it on Redfin. So there it is. I'll click that. While it's pulling up, I'm going to actually go back and I'm going to look at the price history to see. Okay, so it sold for 170 July 2017. So it's not like it wasn't a quick flip. Somebody held on to it. It's nice to see a quick flip because then you can see what they got into it immediately at, and then that gives you a great insight knowing that, hey, if an investor paid, whatever they paid for it, they're most likely going to be willing to pay that for your subject property. So this was purchased a while ago, and they might have got it off market at a deep discount. 170, that's a great price. The other good thing is if you were to look up who purchased this property, the county assessor may tell you what the buyer name is. If not, then you've got to pull up a property profile, and that's something you can do. James, could you do that for us while we're on the call? Pull up 507 North Russell, and James is going to do that through a property profile portal. You can get access to one for free through a title company. We use Tycor Title. And what he's going to do is, since we couldn't find it through a property profile for it through their county website, maybe if we did another search, maybe we could, a better search. but we want to know who bought and sold this property, this comp. The name of the investor who bought and sold it, since it was a flip, granted a slow flip, then that's a great buyer to skip trace, add to your buyers list, and market your subject property to once you have it under contract. Just an additional buyer to add to your buyers list and market your subject property to. So while he's doing that, I'm just going to look back at the Redfin real quick, and I don't see any photos for it. So let's see, it says last sold 170. I just want to check the price history here and make sure that there's, I don't know, Redfin only records the 170 sale. So we got a weird discrepancy there, because this says 550 on a resale, but man, that sure looks like an anomaly, which is so bizarre. I'm going to stick with the 400 number, or the 392, because I mean, I just don't trust this 550. It is the most recent comp. So this one's worth exploring. And James, actually, when he pulls a property profile, we may be able to get more details on it to see if it actually did show another sale date and maybe a new buyer, in the chain of title on the property profile. So while he's doing that, I'm just going to change this to, I'm going to change it to 390 for our ARV. And the reason why 390 is because these were 1,300 square feet, were 1,160 square feet. We've got a basement. I'm not sure if these had basements. What the 702 Russell did, because there was photos there. So, and these are older sales. I don't know if prices have increased there in the neighborhood or what, but if we're at 390 and I go to analyze, we're at 25 bucks a foot, 2-month turn time. Our max rehab price is $300,000. It says our max cash offer is $289, and our initial cash offer is $264. Obviously, have to be underneath that. So that could be for a couple of reasons. One, again, our 390. Maybe this is. If I go back to my comps again real quickly. I mean, this could even really don't. Do we have any other comps that are like closer to the same size and square footage? Everything is kind of the other comps that I got rid of in the three, they were like 330. Here it is, 330 and 315. Oh, here it is, 330, 315.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
If you could just check your email, I sent you the property profile.
Okay. Let's check the property profile real quickly. So here is the property profile. So the new owners, Andrew and Pasqua de Blasio. Says sale amount $550. The seller was Jack and Joseph Ungaro. 631, 1,060 square feet, 7,260 on the lot size, warranty deed. Man, I mean, that's a whole new ball game as far as a comp goes.
But there's only one.
Look at there's only the one. Here's more comps in the area. Here's another 13. Here's a 1360 at 420. That might be a good one to include. And what else do we have here? I mean, I would say that's the next best comp. 420, and then this one's 327. I mean, this comp just doesn't make sense. I mean, it's such an outlier as far as price goes. $420. All right, well, I'm going to include that one as well. And this one's 327. So I'm going to include 619 Pine. So I'm going to include that one as well. Oh, here it is, 619 Pine. Wonder if that was a flip. So I'll look at that one too. And then we'll add is this 420 already in here? Or no, is it missing? No, it wasn't. Okay. You can see why comps are so important. Some are very easy to comp, and some, you can see how every system that's sharing data, I mean, not all of them capture all the comps. You only need, 3 comps to really justify and support your value. So let's see here. So now that I've done that, which one did I add here? It was this one. It bumped it up on me. This one may be adding in basement square footage. I wonder if that's the case, because on title, it's showing 1367. So I'm going to change that to 1367. No, there we go. All right. So what do we do with this North Russell one? Do we include it or do we not include it? I mean, it's a recorded sale.
I would say include it, but in the area, there's no real sales of like solid 4 numbers that are relatively close by. So you would still want to price it at 400. It just helps push our number up to 400 instead of being in the mid 3s. We're now a strong 4.
Yeah. I may have to close my email. I'm going to get all these notifications. Here we go. Yeah, let me close my email. Okay. Isn't this fun? All right. Well, we'll just wait for. Okay. So I agree with investors are going to look at this and say, I mean, they're not going to play for they're going to hope to get the 550, but comps are only supporting, 390. It seems like 390 to 400, 420. We've got to get this one on 717 Pine. I think that was that in the mix here? Where did we get 717 Pine? I was using 619 Pine. Okay, so here's our comp. So we've got 619 Pine, 619 Pine on here. It shows it as a 3-1. So, and that was 619 Pine. It's a 3-1, 1,080 square feet, sold for 327. And this is saying a 4-2 now. So I wonder if that, if the difference is if it's in the basement, perhaps. Let's look and see if Zillow can shed some light on this. Or to 1,000 square feet. And this is a remodel. I mean, this is a great comp. You can see how this one's remodeled completely. So let's look at the price history on this one. So it was purchased for 260, listed for 339. Man, 11 months later. And then price change, went pending. That was almost 60 days. And then sold for 327. And that was a remodel. So, I mean, I don't know about you, James, but this is kind of the vibe I'm getting. We're going to be somewhere around 330, 340.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
350, 350. It's kind of the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah. If you could just go back and hit the dates sold and reorganize it to what's been most recently sold. Very top there. Yeah. One more time.
So here's the most recently sold, but that one's that's 550.
Yeah.
Again, it's tough. I don't see any remodeled photos.
No.
I don't know, that one's tough. It's such an outlier. I don't know how that one really makes sense. You would probably want to call your agent and ask them to look in their local MLS for any remarks or notes and ask your local agent that you're working with on your subject property why this one sold for 550. Any insight he can shed on that.
Right. And then taking off 608 and 216 Forest. I mean there's another 500 mark, but that's around a half mile away.
So if we were justifying this at 350, and could you get more? I think it's really gonna you're really gonna have to understand that comp. This one, what happened here?
Yeah, the lot size may have something to do with it too.
It's really, the lot size really isn't much different.
Yeah,
It's gonna
but
be 260.
when I was looking around the comps today and checking out the like the backyard of the subject property, because there's pictures on Zillow,
Mm-hmm.
the backyard is not very appealing at all on the subject. It's like a metal fence all the way around, very small backyard. Um, it's a very tough one to comp. Um, so I would say, you know, I would say probably, I mean, realistically, it'd be probably sold at 350, maybe 375. The higher comps are just going to help us in the area, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Well, I
only,
can tell you if this.
go ahead.
So let's see. Yeah. Let's see if maybe we could justify 375. That's gonna be 323 a foot, and now we're max rehab at basically what the listing price is, like 287, and it's saying to offer 252 for your initial and 276 for your max cash offer.
Yeah.
So that makes more sense to me. I mean, it would be you're really just gonna have to know what that 550. I mean, again, that's such an outlier. I don't think you're not gonna want to bank on that.
No, no, it
You
just,
got it, and that's exactly why you need multiple comps. That's why you can't just use one comp and say, oh, there it is, great comp. It's because sometimes the data can be off, or the neighborhood can be different, or it was such a superior lot, or just a different type of construction. Could have been something more charming.
yeah.
So,
I mean, just,
and when I say charming, I mean construction style, like a box, a regular box type home, because homes can have charm or they could not have charm just naturally from the bones and the design and the build. And that's why people like craftsman style homes, like here in Southern California, will sell more than kind of a regular looking home, because of the charm, and charm sells. So, but yeah, I think we're going to be in the mid to high threes on this one. So I think that's where we're going to be at. So if we were at 375 on the ARV, that's where the numbers are. So 287, I think Michael was saying 260 is what they'll take, or the agent said to offer at least 260. So if you offer 260, that's right in between your initial and your max, then you could start marketing it at, the 287. I mean, if you're at 260, if you started marketing at, it's on the market now at 289. It's been sitting there like that for almost 2 weeks. So investors aren't going to be very impressed if it's sitting on the market for 2 weeks at 289 and you're offering it at 287. The other thing is sometimes it falls through the cracks. Investors, they miss it, even though it's on the MLS. They didn't see it. They didn't dig into the numbers. They just didn't dig into it. So that's the other value about finding a deal, doing the numbers, and then tying it up, and then marketing it. Because then when you move, and I'm going to show you this here, and then I'll dive back into the questions. But let's say if you're going to market this, let's call it 279. It's 10,000 below the list price. And if you get it around 260, 265, let's call it even 269, then you have a $10,000 margin at 279. Your rehabber, they've got a $42,500 net rehab profit margin, and about let's change the whole time to 3 months. They're at 11.5% ROI in 3 months. That's 47% annually. That's a good return. And if you wanted to see how the numbers, break down further, you can generate a profit analysis. Now that we've got these numbers in place. So when I click generate profit analysis, it dropped it down here in my downloads, and it'll put it here in your Dropbox too, or in your document folder. But here's how it breaks down now. So 375 ARV, if they put in $30,000, which is 25 bucks a foot, and they buy it for max rehab at 279, their total purchase and repair costs are going to be 308. That's 279 plus the repair cost of 29,000. If they do use some leverage and they borrow, 80% of this number, of this 308, that's 246 at 10% interest. So they may borrow more, they may borrow less, but at least this is still a good number from what you can see here. And then you can see how there's already holding costs are already in there. And these are just average numbers. Same with your buying transaction costs. Your buyer, your rehabber ultimately pays for these if you're assigning your contract or selling them your contract, or buying as is, selling as is. Your rehabber is going to be paying, probably close to that, 3,000, maybe a little more, maybe a little less at this price point. And then when they go to resell, these are their selling transaction costs. So you can see how that breaks down: escrow fees and escrow title, recording fees, realtor fees. Typically, realtor fees are somewhere around 5 to 6%, but investors flipping properties in volume, they typically only pay 2.5 to a buyer's agent, and then their listing agent will usually do it for about a point, so they're in for about 3.5. So those are their selling transaction costs. So you can see how their net breaks down, and then you could dig into this on your own time if you ever want to look at that. So that's how that breaks down. So then you could move forward into your marketing here. And actually, when I generated that analysis, I didn't, let me generate it. I clicked too fast, but would you like to automatically add this to your leads documents? Yes. So now when you do your marketing blast, you've got and I'm going to generate a new CMA report. So your CMA and that profit analysis that we just looked at, they're both in there now. You could put a little marketing blurb. You can say, split level, home has a, full size basement of, and I think Michael said somewhere around like 600 square feet for a total of 1,800, square feet or something. But you could also put, easy cosmetic fixer in, great neighborhood, split, and then you've got split level home, I could even put, access instructions, call me. Obviously, this would be Michael sending this out. This would be going out to his list. Call me, do not call listing agents. Here's what the message starts to look like. And all your numbers are already in there. So there's your blurb, it transferred over. All your numbers transferred from your analysis. All your comps transferred from your doing your comps. So you can see how, you know, all the work that you do and that you're doing to support your ARV with putting the good comps in there, you know, tweaking your numbers, that's all not done in vain. That's all being carried forward when you go to do your marketing. And this is why it makes it so easy for investors to take a look at your marketing deal, whether you send them an email, you make a phone call and you connect with a couple local guys and then you put them on your email list and then send it to them. But you can see how valuable it is when they see you've got a deal tied up and they get this marketing breakdown from you. So obviously you need a good subject line. So we could put easy fixer in, I don't know what neighborhood it is. We could just call it Mount Prospect. And then it's always nice to put, you know, the asking price. So like 279 ask with, what are we, 375 ARV. So then they can kind of see what that looks like. I'm just going to reset my email template just to make sure all are seeing. You can see how they would look at this comp and be like, I don't know about that. That's pretty far out there. So we've got low of 327. We've got a high of 550. Our average is 405. Obviously that gets skewed with this higher outlier of a comp, which is actually in here, but we just don't know how that's going to play. Makes sense? So here's your preview. And then if you built a buyer's list, when you go to find buyers, your buyer's list will pop up here. Loading, loading, loading. And then you could, if you wanted to, you know, geo-target your list, if you wanted, like if you were doing deals in like Los Angeles here, for instance, and then in Mount Prospect, you could type in Mount Prospect, and then all of your Mount Prospect people would pop up here, and then you could select filtered and then send to selected. So if you don't have any buyers on there yet, then you could go to instant leads, and you could run an instant cash buyer search in Mount Prospect, and then you could start adding them to your buyers list. And then you could also go to, sorry, let me collapse this. I know it's a lot when we're looking at all of that. But you could also go to your buyers here, click on buyers, and you could start adding them manually here if you were, you know, if you were finding buyers elsewhere. But you could do an instant cash buyer search and connect with buyers that way in that area. So there you have it. Let me go back to our Q&A panel here and see if folks have any questions. Let's see. Jay says it's Peter Bannon who sold it. I think he may be referring when we were pulling up that the 550 comp. Mike says these numbers make sense based on the comps, which also makes sense. I really appreciate your help. The 550 isn't a good comp. No idea how that got there. If I was an investor, I would probably discount it. Yep. Somehow the spread of 252 to 276 is the range I came up with. Nice. I have no idea how I did that, but that was the range. No kidding. Nice. Well, there you go. He says, Mike says, thanks so much. That was very helpful. Great. Cool. Let's see if there's let me check the other Q&A panel, because I know there's a chat box and then there's a Q&A panel. So let's see. Jay says 78 Partners LLC is the current owner of that property. He may be talking about the subject. I see it's Peter Bannon. I could be wrong. Sorry, that was for the wrong property. And then Michael Blue's got a lead he'd like us to take a look at. Let's see, and we're at 7:37. So unfortunately, we're over time. So we're an hour over, or 8 minutes over. Sorry. So we're not going to be able to dive into any more deal analysis, but I hope that was helpful. So then you guys, and let me know in the chat box if it was, or you know, we're pretty much out of time here for any closing questions. But you can watch this replay if you'd like, and then just take what we did and apply it to your leads or a lead that you're working on. This one was obviously, you know, every deal is different, right? It's houses, so it's not rocket science. You just need to make sure, as you can tell, you have to have your comps down. You have to have good support for your ARV, right? Which comes down to your comps. Sometimes it's very easy. You just generate the comps, and then you've got some good ones. You only need 2 or 3. Other times, like in this case, we pulled up a bunch of different comps, but nothing that was a very good match. So we had to do a little digging around. We had to enter some manually. After doing some Zillow searching and some Redfin searching, add in a few manually to come up with some support. You know, make sure we stay in the area, don't cross over any major boundaries, and then put your support on those, because then investors are going to tell you the same thing. They're going to go, you know, just put yourself in their shoes. You know, would you, like what Michael just did, where he said, yeah, he wouldn't use that 550 comp because, you know, you're not going to trust it. It just doesn't make sense, right? You just got to use some common sense, and then tweak your numbers a little bit. The algorithms already auto-populate stuff, but you can always make some tweaks, generate a profit analysis if you really want to dig in a little further. You know, does it make sense? Would an investor, you know, be willing to put in, you know, 30,000 or 25 bucks a foot to hit that 375 number? That all seems to make sense. It was listed for 289, or it is listed for 289, has been for the last 2 weeks. It was on the market 33 days before that, you know, is when it was listed at 300. So obviously an investor is not going to want to pay 289. He's going to want to pay less. So 279 makes sense. So now you want to build your profit margin below that. So if Michael comes in below, and he could come in as high as he wants. I mean, you know, if he wanted to make only 5,000 on it, you know, 279 minus 5 is 274. You don't have any closing costs if you assign the deal. So you could come in at 274 and still make 5,000 on it on an assignment. But yeah, I would suggest at least give yourself a 10,000 margin. You know, maybe a 10-day inspection, 14-day close. It is a fast market, and do an instant cash buyer search if that's a new market for you, and add some cash buyers to your list. Do the search. If their website doesn't produce an email, you know, pick up the phone, give them a call tomorrow, let them know, hey, you know, I found you guys online and noticed you guys are doing flips in the Mount Prospect area. Wanted to connect. I've got a deal, or I have a deal coming up that I'd like to send your way. Would you guys be interested? Great. Who would I send that to? What's their email address? Add them to your list. When you got the deal under contract, pop it right over to them by email. Shoot them a text or a phone call, say, hey, I just sent you over, you know, it's Michael, you know, we spoke the other day, told you I had a deal coming up. Guess what? That deal came up. I just sent it over to you. You know, could you take a look at it and let me know if you guys are interested in going and seeing it today? You know, do those numbers work for you? I hope that makes sense. That's it. James, anything in closing?
No, that should wrap it up.
All right. Very good. All right. I think we've answered everybody's questions. So thanks everybody for being with us for another Fliplogic Real Estate Show. We will catch you same time, Monday at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time next week. All right, everybody. Take care. Good night.